all around us. That we can look up and know the King is alive. That up from the ashes, literally, hope is alive. And I've searched the world. Yeah. sing, there's nothing better than Him. Lord, help our souls remember that, no matter what we're walking through, no matter what's going on in this state or in this country or in this world, Lord, remind our soul, there's nothing better than Him. There's no Netflix, there's no job, there's no family, even that's better than you, God. It's you and your love and our hearts towards you, God. Let that sink deep in. Father, be with me as He teaches. Father, we just love you. We just thank you, God. Amen.
Did I miss anyone? By the way, the reason the kids are still here, this is important. They need to see this. This is it. Youth group starts tonight. Sunday Night Live kicks off tonight. What time is that? 5:30? With a bonfire, is that right? Really, are we even going to notice? Kids, how about you guys? Go ahead and head out if you want. Oh, yes?
The recovery girls, 1:30.
1:30 is the recovery. Thank you for that. 1:30. 1:30. That's good. Thank you for that. Junior high, if you guys want to leave, you can. Or you can hang out here. By the way, I got to tell you what I hate about preaching. There are things I hate. You need to know this. I don't preach for you guys. This is not for you. I hate that as I'm working through this, I'm more and more aware of issues in my own life, and I absolutely hate preaching. I hate this. This is just junk. Because I'm preaching on the tongue, and then I yell at my kids. Literally, I'm not kidding. I yell at just two of them. I mean, the girls are perfect. We know that. For now.
Hey, I've raised a lot of children.
Literally yelling at one of my boys. I'm just like, what is going on inside of me that this is my response to? And if I wasn't preaching on this stupid topic, I wouldn't have ever wondered about it. And last week, we preached on giving blessings. Blessing people, saying the name of God on you, the life of God. And I'm at this restaurant this week, and this lady comes up to me. "You're a pastor." Someone had blown the secret. "Would you bless me?" I'm like, "Definitely." And I'm good. I got this one. And that was one of the night. I'm like, why can't I have more sermons like this, where it's all positive and fun, and bless people as opposed to screaming at them? So it all began, and we're in the book of James, and it started with an honest approach, where he said in verse 2 of chapter 3, "For we all stumble in many ways, we all sin in many ways, and if anyone does not stumble in what he says, he's a perfect man, but nobody's perfect." And we see that in verse 8. He says, "But no human can tame the tongue," so you're not perfect. "It is a restless evil full of deadly poison." And that is why David said, "I will guard my mouth with a muzzle," and the writer of Proverbs, "Whoever restrains his lips is wise." And that's why James says in the very first chapter, "Let every person who be quick to hear, slow to speak, because it is a restless evil. It is full of deadly poison." A fire that is contained within its boundaries, we can see very apparently is a very good thing, a necessary thing for life. But when that fire has no boundaries, as we see in the states around us, in Oregon and Washington, when it's unleashed, it spreads, it destroys, it kills, it does destruction, and things that are burnt can never be unburnt. James says, "The tongue is a fire, a world of unrighteousness. How great a forest is set ablaze by such a small fire, even by just a little spark." And I'm still amazed that the destruction that a tongue can do in a life, and it can do positive things that we saw last week. It can bless, it can curse. Our words can speak life into people. They can shape a destiny in people, and it can also speak death. Proverbs 18:21. "Death and life are in the power of the tongue. Like the bit in a horse," James says in verse 3, "or the rudder of a strong ship." That was in verse 4. Says this in verse 5. It says, "So also the tongue is a small rudder, yet it boasts
of great things. And among the great things that the tongue boasts about is the ability to set on course the life, a direction, one way or the other, whether into blessing or cursing, into life or death. Verse 6, and the tongue is a fire, a world of unrighteousness, and the tongue is set among our members, staining the whole body, setting on fire the entire course of a life, and set on fire by hell. And that right there, that's what grabbed my eye, right there. The involvement of hell to do damage that it does. And the work of hell, according to this verse, is to set fire. That is what the role of hell is. It's to light the match, to take the matches. It's not to move my mouth. So if I am doing damage by the things that I say, if I am hurting people by when I'm yelling at my kids, and you ask me, why is it that I'm doing this? I can't really go, well, the devil made me do it. That is not what I can say. I do not have that ability because that's not what hell is doing. That's not what the devil is doing. It has no power to put words into my mouth. It has no ability to make me say something I don't want to say. It does not burn down a forest. The goal is to consistently and incessantly light a match over and over and over again. So I started to imagine in this room right here, you've got this little hyperactive little demon, and he's somewhere in here, and I don't know, probably to look for a dark corner. And he's not too bright of a demon. This little guy is he's not one of your top-notch, top-tier little guys. No, imagine a little tiny one, and what he's doing in the corner of this room is he's lighting matches. So he's taking, he sees you coming in, and he lights a match, and he just throws it at you. And then he's like, light another match. And he's throwing it at us left and right. And that's all this little demon is doing every time we're coming in. So when you get out of your car and he sees you getting out of the car, throws a little match at you. And then you walk in and you come in to get some coffee. And he's throwing these little matches at you left and right. This little guy, that's all he's doing. And then we start singing music. And he's lighting matches and he's throwing them at us, trying to get something. Oh, and then there goes Steve getting the fire extinguisher. And he literally has one in his hands. And he's throwing matches. And he's trying to get it by Steve. And then I get up here and we're starting to talk about people's problems, about things that are painful in us and things that need prayer for. And he's lighting little matches and he's throwing them at us. And then I start to preach and he's throwing them at us over and over. And he keeps lighting the matches. And now if you were to look around the floor would be literally covered with these charred little pieces of wood that are just all over. And we'd be crunching on them as we're walking through here. And I just want to tell this hyperactive little demon, just stop because it's not working. I mean, they're all just burnt out and there's no fires. And when the wind of God starts to blow through the worship, he almost decided to quit because it's just not even worth it. He's losing so many matches. I mean, he's got an end of supply, but it's like the breath of God keeps blowing them out before it even leaves his hand because he's trying to throw them at us. But he just keeps going. He keeps going. 95, maybe 99% of the time, those matches, nothing is going to happen when he throws them. But then, oh, this one time, the right circumstances aligned with those particular things that were stirring in me that I'm struggling with and I'm thinking about. And on this one, it just happened to be the right day. That useless, tiny little match, oh, it hit the right thing. Just the way that one person talked to me, then something inside me ignited, and then suddenly I get this fire that's starting to grow. Oh, just because if they just said it a different way, and when that happens, the fuel is ignited, and even when the fuel is ignited, my tongue hasn't yet responded. I still haven't said anything yet. I'm not engaged, but I am aware that something is inside of me, and you know that feeling, and I just and your tongue is like, can I go? Just let me go. Oh, I know what to say. Can I say it now? Can I say it now? I've got the perfect thing. I have the greatest comeback. Oh, I've got an insult for you. I have the perfect put down. I have lots of words to use. Oh, just let me out, release me. And then the fire's getting bigger and it's moving fast and I'm getting really angry and I start talking with my tongue. Oh, are you ready? Oh, I'm ready. Oh, I was born ready. And it is a restless evil full of deadly poison, and the fire's ignited because this little match found my fuel, and if that if that fire grows and it starts to get to my tongue, the tongue is released, damage is going to be done. And I didn't mean to do it. I didn't mean to do it, but the damage is going to be done. And then add to this to the scenario, because we're not done playing this scenario out. See, not all demons are lower level. They're not all these little tiny ones. Not all demons are hyperactive, lighting matches all the time. Not all demons are idiots. Some are very cunning. Some are very wise and subtle in the demonic ways. And in demonic wisdom, they wait. They're waiting for the right moment. They wait for the fuel to leak. But if they're really wise, and some are, if they're really smart, they're going to wait a very long time, because what they want is that pool of fuel to start to grow. They want it to accumulate. And then at the right moment, at the right time, maybe even for years, they've been waiting for that perfect moment when it's going to do the most damage to you, to your family, to the kingdom cause. One match, just one match. And then, boom! It's a beautiful explosion. I mean, it's fireworks. It is enormous. And when that match finds my built-up fuel of my selfishness, or the built-up fuel of my arrogance, or of my bitterness, or my pride, or that pool of insecurity that is just starting to spill out of me, that area of my life that has never been touched by the amazing grace of God, when that match finds that kind of unresolved conflict, that unhealed wound, that undealt with sin, whoosh, it's a big fire, really fast. And when my mouth finds that fuel, that fire is lit, the tongue is engaged, there are two kinds of fires that are rather common. The first is the explosive kind. I mean, that's kind of the obvious, what we think of most, where like when you're trying to start a barbecue grill and you've got the fuel on and you're trying to light it, and you're like, where's my match? But you still have the gas on, and you're looking for the lighter. Finally you get it. Boom! It's just whoosh, and you just and your hair is singed, and that's how I lost mine. There's not really going to be a lot of damage. You're not going to do damage to the house, most likely. Most of that damage is going to be directly at you, ground zero. It might not spread. It's not going to do damage to anyone else. But right there, right where that grill is, that's where the damage is, where the explosion is. But that's not how it is for everyone. Sometimes when that fuel is lit, it's not going to be explosive, but maybe it's going to be a slow burn, where something gets ignited in you or in me, and it just starts to kind of grow slowly, where the pool is found of fuel in you and in me, and something is lit, but I keep on smiling. I'm still okay outwardly. Outwardly, you don't know. Nothing would indicate to you that the fuel in my heart has been lit, that there's a fire going. It's like the burner on a stove where it seems like it's an appropriate place for it to be, but if anyone comes near me, I'm going to heat them up, and then that way, when my heat finds your gas, that fire spreads from me to you, and it starts to spread, and after it has spread, you don't even know where ground zero was, because I never blew up. It was never an explosive kind of thing. Some people, their whole life will never blow up, but they are on fire, where it's like this continual burning. Their fuel is ignited, and everyone who comes close to them, they seem to get heated up by that person. Just by being near them, you just feel there's a heat and a warmth to them. And it goes this way. You start talking with someone and you feel heat from them, and it may not even be by the words that they say. It might not be exactly what it is they're talking about, but it's how they said it. And I didn't like the way they said it, and they kind of passively criticize me or judge me, and it kind of hits my pool of insecurity and some strong-held opinion that I have, and it starts to ignite something inside of me. And then, I start to walk away from that person. I'm thinking, man, they're a jerk. I didn't actually like them, and they're mean, and I wonder if anyone else feels the same way about them. I'm going to ask a few other people. Maybe they don't like them either. I'm going to go see if they think they're a jerk, and if they don't, maybe I can make them think they're a jerk, because I think they really are a jerk, and I just want to protect people. Now I'm going to protect people, and I'm going to find their gas, and I'm going to spread it. Because and maybe they're going to even have a bigger flame, because when they find out what they did, they're gonna go ballistic. They will blow up. And what we do with this feeling that God ignited, maybe it's not an explosive burn. And we're looking for proof that that yucky feeling is true and they really are a jerk, and where maybe you've experienced with someone, maybe when you do this, you form an opinion with someone where from all your interactions, they start to get colored from that impression, and I start to see them negatively. Maybe you come across someone and you decide, you know what, they're irresponsible, they're untrustworthy, they're arrogant, they're unloving. And even though they might have 25 other behaviors that speak to the opposite, that it's not true that they are those things, but maybe they really have a lot of humility and they have a lot of gentleness and possibly even loving. But that doesn't count, because I found this one character flaw that rubbed me the wrong way that I'm going to hold on to, and I've decided that is who they are, and now I'm going to build a case against them, and it's going to color all of my interactions with them from now on. So you start to play this out as a parent who has a kid. Maybe I've decided one of my kids is irresponsible. And I decided, it's not an irresponsible behavior that they have to deal with. I decided they're just plain irresponsible. And over the next month, even though there might be several behaviors that indicate maybe they do have responsibility, and I saw several places that they, I also saw a couple areas where I saw them act irresponsibly, but all those responsible things that I saw them do, those don't actually count. Those don't count, because at one time I saw them irresponsible. That continues to affirm what it is that I believe about them. That is what I believe to be true about them. And the kid can never get out from underneath that kind of judgment, because it's always on them. I had an uncle who did that to me to the day he died. He saw me as a screw-up that needed saving, that I was lazy, that I was reckless, and those things are in me. I be that. But he decided when I was 29, I needed to be saved, because I should be an adult, and I don't seem to be in his mind, because he always saw me as this 9-year-old. So he decided to hire me as a pastor, because he thought maybe if I'm closer, he could fix me more. I almost quit ministry after a year and thought, well, this whole thing about serving God is a waste. This is a useless thing. This is awful. Because what he wanted was to put me under his thumb and fix his poor sister's son. And that's how he always saw me to the day he died. Years even after that, was this lazy, reckless kid that is never going to do anything worthwhile for the kingdom or for the family or for anyone. And maybe you're the kid in this situation. Maybe your parent brought some discipline in your life, and maybe it was even appropriate discipline. They gave some restrictions onto your life for your health, and you got upset and you just decided, well, that parent doesn't really love me. They love one of the other kids maybe more. They don't love me. And then even over the course of the month, there might be 100 examples of their love and care and commitment towards you in your life and welfare. But those don't count. Because that one time they restrict you, that one time they bring discipline, whoosh, flooded with anger that justifies all of this frustration that you have towards them. They don't love me. They don't care about me. The fire's lit, opinion is solidified more and more, and then you go share with others. Proverbs 26:20, without wood a fire goes out. And the problem is we always want to find more wood. I want more wood. We can always find someone else's gas, someone else's insecurity, someone else's unresolved conflict. And it's just really not a hard thing to find. Some of us have formed friendships based on people that we dislike together, where we form this friendship, but where we agree we're going to talk bad about this other person. They're a jerk. And we have these friendships that we form based on who is wrong and who we don't like. And we're united together that this person is bad. We're not actually friends outside of that. We don't really get along out, but the thing is nothing will bind you faster and closer than having a shared enemy. And it's a phony intimacy, but the quickest way to bond with someone initially is to find something wrong with anyone else and find a way to connect over someone you don't like, even a political party or political person. And then you start to criticize, and suddenly you're best friends. But it is not true intimacy. It's a false intimacy. When we start, with the match, because when the match finds the built-up fuel that's inside of me, it can be explosive. Lots of damage at ground zero, but when it's a slow burn, it'll spread broadly, doing lots of damage, but you can never find where that ground zero actually was. And what all this does is reveal to you and to me where it is that we leak. James 9:12. With the tongue we bless our Father and Lord, and with it we curse people who are made in the likeness of God. From the same mouth come blessing and cursing, life and death. My brothers, these things ought not to be so. Does the spring pour forth from the same opening both fresh water and salt water? Can a fig tree, my brothers, bear olives, and a grapevine produce figs? Neither can salt pond produce fresh water. The point is simply this: bitter water, that bitter water that's in you and then me, that salty water, it's coming from someplace. There might be sweet water coming from you. We might have sweet water, but there's also something salty, and it came from that salty place. Fig trees, they don't grow olives. They're not capable of that. So somewhere, if you have a fig tree and it's growing these olives, somewhere in the middle of that tree, you must have roots that are going down. We can't just go, well, I wonder how that's just a curious thing. No, somewhere in there you have an olive root growing somewhere that is intertwined with that fig. And it works like this. The match is lit, it finds your fuel, it's ignited, the tongue is engaged, words start to come out, damage is done. And sometimes people do this over and over and they never see the damage that they do. They're oblivious to the fires they start. We don't always see when we start fires. We're not always intentional in how we do it. So let's say that you do see the damage you have done. Maybe it was through an explosion. Maybe you have a slow burn that's inside of you. And you see it. And most people, what they do, when we see a fire that we have spread, we feel bad about it. I wish I didn't do that. I feel bad, and you feel sorry. And you say, I'm sorry. And you might even go, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And you say it profusely, I'm sorry. And you might even really feel sorry that you're doing it. And you might even say something like this: I didn't mean it. I really didn't mean it. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean it. Please forgive me. And you even believe it when you say that. And James says in this section, this is where James is headed. I'm really glad you're sorry. But I want to push you past, this whole sorry thing. I need you to go beyond that. Because I know you say you didn't mean it, but what I don't want you to do is I don't even want you to say that. Here's why. Because that word that you said in the heat of the battle, in that moment of anger, in that moment, that fire, it came from someplace. Because that rage, that rumor you spread, the slander that you gave with a smile, that innuendo, that came from somewhere. Because a fountain can't pour out bitter water unless it has something bitter there. It can't produce, that salty water is coming from something that is salty. And are you willing to look at it? Are you willing to look at where that might have come from? So don't tell me that you didn't mean it. What would really help, what would really feel like maybe you're really sorry, don't even tell me you're sorry, because what would really feel like you're sorry is if you came up wondering even just a little bit, just to wonder, where did that come from? James says, just acknowledging that you did it is step one. And that's a good place. That you acknowledge, that you admit, you go, I blew it. Just realizing you did damage. I love that you acknowledge you did damage in someone's heart and in someone's life, but that's only the first step. Please don't stop there. Please don't stop there. And if that's as far as you've gone, I don't really care anymore. You haven't gone far enough. The question is, are you willing to wonder about the root? About where that came from and why that even came out. So I want to pull all of us into something that's going to create work for us when we leave today. Yeah. All right. Thanks, Kenny. We love more work. Are you willing to wonder about the roots in your heart and in your life? About the uncontrollable reflex that we have at times. Maybe not every day. It doesn't happen every day. There might really be a lot of sweet water in you. But every once in a while, this uncontrollable reflex to undermine him, to ridicule, to diminish her, to expose them, this reflex from time to time that sometimes is even embarrassing to you to embellish the fact, and you wonder, why did I do that? And are you willing to wonder and press past just feeling bad that you did it and start to wonder, where did that come from inside of me? This almost uncontrollable reflex, you have to jump to conclusions, to pass on that really juicy piece of information that I got about him or her, to talk about him or her without even talking to that person first, because the truth, is this, that particular area of your life, it seems to get ignited over and over and over again. If I was to really look at it, and the assignment is not to wonder about what you did 6 years ago. I don't care about that. Leave that part in the past. We need to heal and move on. What I'm wanting to invite you into is the process of inviting God into that area that is getting ignited over and over that you still do today or yesterday, or maybe it was a week ago, or maybe it was a month ago. Where sometimes it can be explosive, but sometimes it is this slow burn. Are you willing to look at it? Not just that you did it, but where it came from. And are you willing to wonder what is fueling that fire and where you leak flammable fuel? I'll tell you this right now. One of the things I've been very conscious of is when people start to talk politics with me. Whoa, I have seen more people, it's like, hey, let's talk about Trump for a second. Suddenly, it's like, it's like, maybe not in me, but in them. I'm like, this is me going up to people. Hey, you want to talk about Trump? And then oh, Steve, where are you? Oh, Steve, you're letting it grow. It's a slow. I have been processing this for the last several weeks, wondering about this, about me, about us. And I've thought of 4 things that routinely cause us to leak. I'm not saying this is the exhaustive authority right now, but just as I've been processing this, the primary place that I think I leak, in my opinion, is when I get hurt. Hurt by itself does not make you use your tongue and do damage. Many people deal with pain and hurt, and they do it in very healthy ways by saying, hey, what you just said, hey, that really hurt me. I want to address that right now, and maybe, did you mean that? Let's talk about it, because before I explode, I need to know if you're really coming at me. And so they deal with it out loud. They deal with it straight. They're very open. They're not, simmering on it. They deal with it. That's a healthy way. And that person was like, oh, I didn't mean to say it that way. Yeah, okay, oh, good. I'm glad we addressed it. Now let's move on, and we're good. But what I'm talking about is when our hearts get ignited with a flame of anger, and then that flame hits our tongue. There's no greater time that I need to be aware that my tongue has the ability to do damage in my marriage and with my children, and to my career, and to the church, and to the kingdom cause, and to my friendships, than when for some reason I have been hurt. And that hurt has ignited the fuel that's inside of me, and now it's either smoldering or it is explosive. And if there was ever an appropriate time to know, or I should put a muzzle on my mouth, that would be the moment right then. When I get my feelings hurt. When I get my feelings hurt at that moment, Kenny, keep your mouth shut, because not everything I'm going to say right now is going to be appropriate to share. So Kenny, shut your mouth. Just shut your mouth, bite your tongue if you have to. Just be quiet, be slow to speak, be slow to speak, be slow to speak. Kenny, right now do it. Put a muzzle on it. And many even know that just because you put a muzzle on it, though, at that very critical moment, you made a really good choice. I shut my mouth. The match was still thrown on my fuel, and I'm ready to get someone. I'm still ready. I'm holding it in, and you instinctively know it's a good choice. I did a good job. I put a muzzle on it. But that gets nowhere near the root of the problem. I may not say a word, but that fire is still ignited in me. Okay, I still have that fire. Yes, I'm making a good choice, and I'm really grateful that I made a good choice, but what's still going on? Why is it that I got so ignited about that thing? How does that hurt so easily ignite inside of me? And sometimes it's someone else's tongue. Maybe it was someone's slander of me, someone else's explosion that caused a wound in me that is just not going away. And sometimes It's truly an abusive situation and unfair treatment. Sometimes the heat that so easily ignites me and that makes my tongue a very dangerous place, is because what happened is I didn't get what I wanted. Oh, I didn't get what I wanted. And then my plan was thwarted. I mean, my agenda, you frustrated. I had a goal. You blocked my goal. My dream is dashed. My need is not met. My craving is not satisfied. When someone has the arrogance to say no to me, no, who are you to say no to me? Oh, no, you didn't get the raise. No, you didn't get the job you wanted. No, and oh no, yeah, that's no problem. Oh, yeah, no big deal. I just trust in the Lord all the time. And I doubt many of you actually say that. And it doesn't make us bad people when things get ignited in us, but something is ignited. Oh, there's the match. Found it. I was wondering where that piece went. I was like, really, where did it go? Found it. It just still tastes like coffee. No, we're not going to go with your idea, but I still have a smile on my face, but that fire was just ignited. No, we're not going to have sex tonight. No, you can't use the car today. No, I don't want to date you anymore. You're such a nice guy. You're the nicest guy I've ever met. You love God. It's not you, it's me. But no, I'm not going to date you. Oh, come on. It starts with sadness and rejection, but it goes to anger. You're not going to date me. What's wrong with who are you? You know, if anything is more flammable, though, than a hurt heart, we want to rise up, and sometimes I want to feel big again. When we were 2 years old, we would hear the word no, and we rose up with a tantrum. And it didn't look good then. It was very unappealing then. And then, whether you're 2 or 22 or 32 or 52, the tantrum still looks absolutely as selfish as it did when you were 2, as it really is. But not everyone has these tantrums anymore. They do the slow burn. It's not this explosion. They just heat everyone else up. And the older I get, the better conversations I have with my mom. She's been sharing recently about kind of how we grew up, how she grew up, with just a lot of anger in the family and how they dealt with it passive-aggressively, and how we would play the victim and how she would teach me to play the victim. And it wasn't something that she intentionally taught me, but that's how I saw it. That's how my family dealt with it, is we would heat each other up. There was a lot of anger in my family. Not just my immediate family, but like my extended family. We were all angry people, and this passive-aggressive thing. And we, instead of dealing with conflict and pain, we would just go and heat each other up because it was so easy. Everyone was already on fire, really. It was just, you just throw more fuel on it, throw another log on the fire. And then everyone's hot and boiling. It helped me to understand. I've been trying to understand how I approach anger and pain, because what I typically have done for most of my life, it's actually one of the things that I really love about Kath Lammett. God has really been holding my feet to the fire. This has been one of the biggest areas of growth in my life in the last 5 years, and I am so grateful for this church allowing me this growth. Is how I deal with pain when I am in it. Because typically I will run from it, and I will play the victim to it, and I will be passive aggressive. And if you pressed me too hard historically, I would explode. It was kind of this defense mechanism that I use to keep people away from the places where I am leaking. I wanted to. It's not. I'm gonna blast you if you get too close. Because I don't want you to see the areas in my life where I feel weak and small and hurt. And it's helpful to know those things inside of you. And it's important to know that I get ignited. And it's important to know my tendency, where I put a smile on, but I'm still heating up other people, and where I play the victim, and sometimes I do blow up. It's important for me to know my way, and I've been understanding my way, but also my tendencies reveal, and here's the bottom line, is I do leak. Not just knowing what I do, it's that I leak. Because if it's knowing that I have tendencies and that sometimes I do blow up and why I blow up, I mean, if that's as far as I've gone, it's not revealing where it's coming from. It's not revealing why I leak. It doesn't reveal the source of what's going on inside of me. Sometimes we will say, well, that's just the way I am, as if to say, well, everyone else has to live with it and deal with it, and I don't have to do any of the work to change any of it. So what is the source? What is the flammable fuel inside of me that is leaking? And as I search my own heart, I think the answer is this. I think it is mine and our relentless, obsessive, and unyielding commitment to me. My overwhelming preoccupation with myself, with my plan, with my agenda, my idea, my wants, my whims, my dreams, and my desires. And very few things on this earth have more power to reveal my unbelievable, just this militant and strong commitment to myself. Very few things on this earth have more power to reveal my arrogance and my selfishness and my preoccupation with myself than when someone like my wife or my kids say no to me. Or when my boss or a person I want help from says no. Very few things have the power to reveal how committed I am to myself. James 4:1. I know we're kind of moving ahead in James here, but he says, "What causes fights and quarrels among you? Don't they come from your desires that battle within you? You desire, but you do not have, so you kill. You're envious and cannot obtain, so you fight and quarrel." James says, he's like, so here's what I'm seeing it as. The flammable fuel that you and I have, the hurt is that we don't get what it is that we want. When we want it, how we want it. I can't get that person I want. I don't get the position I want. I can't get the answer I want. I don't get the strokes that I want. I can't get the flight that I want. I can't get the house I want, the family that I want. I can't get the clothes I want. Why don't they have my size? How do you not have what I want when I want it? It's embarrassing. But I'm starting to see these moments now. I'm starting, especially in the last few weeks. I've tried to see them as a gift. Why am I so angry when they put raw onions on my hamburger? I asked them not to put raw onions on my hamburger. Kenny, just take them off. My son, one of them, he refuses to eat at McDonald's because a year and a half ago they put a pickle on his hamburger. He still won't go to McDonald's. Hey, buddy, I know you're hungry. There's a McDonald's right there. No. There's nothing else for 50 miles. Then I'm not eating today. And I've got to deal with his anger and he'll be in tears. I will not go to McDonald's. They put a pickle. Pickles, onions, condiments. So important. In order for us as a people to walk into these truths, to cut off the leaks of flammable fuel that are inside of every one of us, as you begin to get the idea that it's going to take something more substantial than to even put a muzzle on. The advice David had was good. In the heat of the moment, I do need to have some self-discipline. I do need to shut my mouth. But for the long haul, if we're going to get to the core of these things, we have to do more than put a muzzle on ourselves. A muzzle only buys us time, where we then have to do the deep work of discovering where is it and why is it that I'm leaking, and what is the pool that's inside of me. What it's going to take is a deep penetrating and liberating and healing look of. It's going to take the ongoing work of God doing something deep inside of you and me. As I get in touch with some of my inner longings, my deep longings, and how most of them are met by the people in my life, I can keep my smiling face on while I kind of seethe inside. Sometimes I even seethe at God. I seethe at God. I love the word seethe. I seethe at God. I've raged at God. God's big enough to handle it. I'm processing. It's part of the process. For the penetrating healing and ongoing work of God inside, it begins by seeing the depth of our own sin and the overwhelming breadth of our selfishness. And then as I see it, I come up staggeringly desperate and hungry for the power of amazing grace to come into those places where I leak. Even if it's from this low-level, tiny little demon who just is tossing matches at me all day, trying to hit the easy stuff. But for grace to come into those places and for me to heal and forgive and to cap off those places in me that leak. So the question I've been wrestling with is, Kenny, are you willing to wonder where I leak? Where do you leak? Where is it that you leak? And are you willing to invite God into those places? Tomorrow, when you grab your journal or a piece of paper and say, this is kind of your homework, if you're willing. Am I willing to wonder about those places where I leak over and over again in my relationships? To start looking at the pattern. Where have I done damage recently? And that can be either through an explosion or a slow burn. And then write, God, I want to invite you into that place. I do columns. I like columns. Where do I leak? And I just start listing all the places I leak. Then the next column, I just start writing, God, I invite you into that place. I invite you into that place. I invite you into that place. And Lord, am I willing to wonder what it's about where it is? Please move there and reveal those things to me and bring your grace to help me look at it. Because there are things I don't want to look at. I would much rather make everyone else look at it than me. That's just the way I am. And the hard part is, they're like, yes, that is the way you are. And then by the Spirit, maybe with some friends, and maybe a support group or a recovery ministry, you start to say, help me stay committed to this journey of healing. Help me not to bail out and just start ignoring it again. Are you willing to wonder? And as I invite God into those places and God begins to reveal things to me, I believe God, I do believe God begins to heal things. Hang on to amazing grace as you invite God into some of those places. And we can keep it takes work, but we can do it. I am not done. I believe you guys are not done. We're going to keep going. Let's go ahead and move into worship. I'm just going to pray for us. Holy Father, we invoke your name right now and believe that by invoking the name of Jesus, we have the power and authority to come into your presence. We speak of your holiness and your majesty, and it is amazing that we can stand in your holy presence. We are so grateful for grace, because who among us could ever stand without your grace? Who among us would have the courage to even look at where it is that we leak fuel without your amazing grace? So, Father, thank you for your amazing grace, that you would even allow us to begin this process of starting to wonder where it is we have fuel. And we invite you into those inner places of our hearts, places we are afraid to look at ourselves or very afraid to show other people. We don't even want you to know about it sometimes, God. Father God, we invite you into that place, those places that hurt feelings live, maybe very real abuses live, that we guard and protect and defend and are so easily ignited. God, we pray that you come into those places and reveal to us where we leak, what it is that we leak. Holy Spirit, move us as individuals and as a body to begin to do the amazing ongoing work of capping off some of those places where our gas leaks over and over and over again. And begin to just deeply set us free from ourselves. To trust you with some of those wounded places we so easily have so that we can authentically love people and forgive people, where we can bless and not curse people. Some of us have work to do with forgiveness, needing it for ourselves, for the ways that we have with our tongue done damage, and some of us needing to extend forgiveness to people who've done damage to us. God, do this work. I pray for the gifts of your Spirit and that you would meet us this week as we continue the ongoing work.
So I wrestled all week on whether or not to do this song. But after that sermon, I think I already warned the team we might skip it, but it's just a meditation of my heart. So let it be a meditation of your heart. From the love of my own comfort, from the fear of having nothing, from a life of worldly passion, deliver me, oh God, from the need to be understood, from the need to be accepted, from the fear of being alone. Deliver me, oh God, yeah, deliver me, oh God, and I shall not want, now I shall not want, now I taste your goodness, shall
physically and also in our hearts, that we can deal with the areas that are on fire inside of us. So may God's Spirit move. Amen. Have a good day.